Today we're going to start with number 10 because it leads us directly into complex conjugates. What do you notice about number 10 that's kind of unique? They're nearly the same except for the sign. One of them is addition, the other is subtraction. Let's see what happens when we double distribute. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times negative 3i is negative 18i. 3i times 6 is positive 18i. 3i times negative 3i is negative 9i squared. Okay, the first cool thing that happens, in the middle we've got negative 18i and positive 18i. Those are going to cancel each other out completely. Then negative 9i squared, remember I squared is the same as negative 1. So really, this term is a positive 9. So what do we really have here? We have 36 and positive 9, which is 45. The i's are gone. So because these two binomials were the same except for that sign, it created this situation where the i's canceled out, and because of I squared equaling negative 1, all of the i's canceled, and we have just a real number answer. This is helpful when you have something like number 11. Number 11 is 3 over 2 plus I. I is a square root. Are we allowed to have square roots on the bottom of a fraction? No. So we want to make the i's on the bottom go away. And we noticed in number 10, if you have two complex numbers that are nearly identical except for the sign, the I goes away. That's called a complex conjugate. So we are going to multiply the top and the bottom by 2 minus I. On the top, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times negative I is negative 3i. We are allowed to have i's on the top. That's totally fine. On the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative I, negative 2i. I times 2 is positive 2i. I times negative I is negative I squared. The middle terms go away. Negative I squared. Yep, because I squared is negative 1, so this is basically saying negative 1, which is positive 1. So on the bottom we have 4 and 1, so our bottom is 5, and the top is 6 minus 3i. And we've gotten rid of the I on the top, on the bottom, not on the top, on the bottom. Number 13, we don't really care what's on the top. What we care about is that on the bottom we have 1 minus 2i, and that I on the bottom is a problem. What should we multiply the top and the bottom by to make the I on the bottom go away?
1 plus 2i.
1 plus 2i. And on the top, you're going to need to add a set of parentheses around that numerator so that you can double distribute. Okay, so we need to distribute on the top, distribute on the bottom. Take a moment, double distribute on the top, double distribute on the bottom, and then we'll simplify it together. If you're watching the video, pause the video. Okay, here's the expanded numerator and the expanded denominator. First in the numerator, 6i squared is 6 times negative 1. So really that term is negative 6. So we have 5 and negative 6, which gives us negative 1. Then 10i plus 3i, 13i. So the top of our answer is negative 1 plus 13i. On the bottom, The middle cancels. Negative 4i squared is negative 4 times negative 1, so that's really a positive 5. We have 1 and 5, which is 6. So our final answer is negative 1 plus 13i over 6. My class just told me that I can't do simple math, which I think we all know by now that I can't do simple math. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Definitely positive 4, which means on the bottom, this is a 5. Yeah, I really want you all to watch what I do carefully because the simple math stuff, it just often doesn't happen. Get a laugh off of this. Go for it. It's okay. It's totally cool. All right, now let's go into solving equations with complex numbers. And here's another big old mistake on my notes. No, we're not doing the square root of I. This should say the square root of negative 1 equals I. You need to remember that the square root of negative 1 equals I. If we have the equation x squared equals negative 36, if you got this equation in Algebra 1, you would have tried to square root both sides, and then you'd say, oh, we can't do the square root of negative 36, no solution. But now we know about imaginary numbers, so now we can do something with this. We can break this into the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 36. What is the square root of negative 1? I. And the square root of 36 is 6. So we have plus or minus 6i. Don't forget your plus or minus. Now, today, your assignment is going to be online through Clever, through Big Ideas Math, and it will give you 2 fields and say type in the answers. So one of your answers is 6i, the other answer is negative 6i, because they don't have that plus minus button in there. So just take that plus minus and separate that out into your 2 answers. All right, number 2, what do you think we should do first? So subtract 26. So 2x squared equals negative 36. A lot of people try to square root at this step. We can't square root yet. We have to divide by 2. So x squared equals negative 18. Now we can square root. Don't forget the plus minus. And I don't know how you want to do your work, but usually I go off to the side and look at the square root of negative 18. I know it's got the square root of negative 1 in it. How can we split up 18 using our perfect squares? 9 and 2. The square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of 9 is 3. And we can't simplify the square root of 2 anymore. So x equals positive or negative 3i square root of 2. And one more time on your assignment, there will be 2 fields. One of your answers is 3i square root of 2. The other answer is negative 3i square root of 2. So just take that plus minus and split it up. One of your answers is positive, your other answer is negative. Number 3. We cannot distribute. So how do we get rid of the 2 if we can't distribute? Divide by 2. So x plus 3 squared equals negative 24. Simple math, you know. Simple math. All right. We square root both sides. My 5th hour is just laughing hysterically at me right now. It's all good. So we have x plus 3 equals plus or minus. We need to simplify the square root of negative 24. I know there's a negative 1, so square root of negative 1. How can we break up 24? 4 and 6. So we've got 2i square root of 6. Do you suppose we should leave our answer like that? Subtract 3 on both sides, and that negative 3 is going to go in front, and then the plus minus 2i square root of 6. So on your assignment today, you've got negative 3 plus 2i square root of 6, and you've got negative 3 minus 2i square root of 6. Those would be the answers that you would put into those two fields. On your assignment, it is online, so you'll have to use your computer, log into Clever, go to Big Ideas Math. If you don't know how to find the assignments in there, let me know. I'll help you find it. The really, really great thing about the assignment is that I set it for unlimited answer checks. So hopefully you are doing your simple math better than me today. But as you get your answer, type it in, hit the check answer. If you get it right, great, move on. If you don't get it right, go back and revise. If you still haven't gotten it right, ask for help either from a classmate or from me. This is a really great opportunity to get instant feedback and make sure that you're really understanding this and getting it before we move on to the next thing.